Hello dear friends and welcome to your YouTube channel Civil Engineering with Reza. It's truly an honor for me to have you here. I'm very happy that I can see you in the second episode of Learning AutoCAD series, AutoCAD 2025 from beginning. In this session, I will try to inform you and we will learn about the fundamental information which is units in AutoCAD software. It's the most important part of learning the software because without units, the things that you draw is meaningless. So if you want to be a professional in this field and also you wanted to learn from A to Z, please be with me until the end of this tutorial. Are you ready? Let's start. At the beginning, I would like to inform you about the performance of the mouse that we use during working with AutoCAD because it's important. Then we will talk about the units. Mouse here consists of three bottoms, the left bottom, the right bottom, and the middle one which we call it wheel. The left bottom or the left click mostly is used in AutoCAD for selecting the objects and also for picking the commands or the menus and these kind of things. But on the other hand, the left icon is mostly used for getting additional available options in the middle of our commands, or we can, for example, use them to accept the default option of a command or end the process. And the middle one, which we call it wheel, is mostly used for as a pan or zooming process. For example, if we press it, we can use it as a pan, and if we move it upward and downward, in that case we can use in zoom performance. So it was all about the mouse in the AutoCAD. Now I will show you what I mean. Let's see it in AutoCAD, and let me turn off the grids. Now look, I'm using here the left click. I go on top of the command and use left click. Now it's active. When I use the left click, I select the points. Now I use the right click. If I use the right click, you can see I can get access to additional information. For example, I can use as enter in the performance of enter. I can cancel the command or any other more options. And also, let me, for example, say enter and it's finished. Now let's talk about the middle one, which we call it wheel. If I press that wheel, as you can see in here, if I press the wheel, it uses as a pan. I can move on the window like this. But let me turn on the grids now. When I use the wheel and I rotated it up and down, when I rotated it up, I zoom in inside, and when I rotated it down, I zoom out. It's the performance of the mouse. Now let's continue our study on the units. As you remember, in previous session we talked about application menu. I told you that I will inform you more about the units. To talk about the units, we can come here in application menu and drawing utilities units. It's the first case that we can use, but in the other hand, we can use this part as you see menu bar. Now it's shown, but I hide it. I will show you. We have menu bars, as you can see from quick access toolbar. In customize quick access toolbar, we can come here and show menu bar. If I show it, you see here all the commands are available here, from edit, view, insert, about drawings, about modifying. We have all of the things. For example, move here, but we have access from here too. If we want to talk about the units, we can come to format, units. It's the second form, and also we can type the command here. We can say units, and by enter we can come here. I will talk completely about different ways of adding a command on the AutoCAD. But now let's just learn about the units. When you open the units, as you can see here, we have different parts. First one is the length and angle. We can have two types of units, means that the linear dimension, which is taking the length of that, and also the angle, dimensioning the angle. To talk about the length in the first part for linear cases, we can use different types as you can see here. We have architectural, decimal, engineering, fractional, and scientific. What is the difference between them? When we use architectural and engineering, our dimensions are based on inch and foot. We cannot use millimeters, meters, and these kind of things. But when we use decimals, let me for example choose architectural. In output, sample output, you can see that they are based on feet and inches. Also about engineering. But what is their differences between them? As you see in architectural, we have in fractional mode, but in engineering, they are in decimal mode. It's their difference. But when we say about decimals, which is mostly used in our works and also in engineering process, it's somehow unitless. Why? Because when we say decimal, when we choose it here, we can come here and use our scales if we want it to be inches or millimeters. So now we are free to use which one that we want to apply. But in architectural, as you see, I choose millimeter. When I say OK, it says that for architectural and engineering linear units, insertion of these should be in inches. And about fractional, as its name shows, it shows in form of fractions. And about the scientific, it shows in scientific form. We use most of the time them in the cases that we want to work with molecules or in short scales, and also with galaxies in large scales. But in our works in engineering process that we use for buildings and architectural and these kind of things, decimal is suitable for us. For example, I choose decimal. Now in here we have precisions. In here we can use up to 8 precisions. But in AutoCAD itself, its accuracy I think is about 16 digits. But here we can show them in 8 precisions. For example, it depends on the scale or unit that you wanted to use. For example, in drawing a building, if we use millimeter, no precision is needed. But if we work with meter, for example, most of the time we use 2 digits after decimal places. It depends on your units. If, for example, we say with 1 precision we want to use this. It was about the length, but let's talk about the angles here. In angles, we have different types too. We have decimal degree, degree, minute, second, gradients, radians, and surveyor's units. Let's talk about them completely. What is their differences? Let me bring this. As you see here, let's talk about a decimal degree, which is 45 degrees. If we consider a circle, generally in degrees it's 360 degrees. Now let's change it to degrees, minutes and seconds. Be careful when we say 1 degree equals to 60 minutes and 1 minute equals to 60 seconds. So for showing this case in the form of degree, minutes and seconds, we can say 44 degrees and 59 minutes and 60 seconds. What is the difference between them and gradients? In a circle that we talked, it's 360 degree. In the form of gradient, it's 400 gradients, a circle. So now let's consider it. 45 is 1/8 of 360. It means that 1/8 of a circle. For 1/8 of a circle in the form of radian, it means that dividing 400 by 8, it's 50. So it's 50 radian. Now let's talk about radians. If we consider the similar circle, it's 2p, the whole circle. So if I consider that, yeah, it's 2p, 2 multiplied by, if we, for example, consider 3.14, it's our 2p. If we divide it by 8, it's around 0.785. It's similar to this for radians. But what is the information about surveyor's unit? In surveyor's unit, they are similar to degree, minutes, and seconds, but in here we start, as you see, from east. It can be clockwise and counterclockwise, but I will inform you later. Now, here we can say that we talk about the north, south, east, and west. For example, we say between north and east, it's 45 degrees. And let me talk about the clockwise and counterclockwise. Actually, the AutoCAD basis is counterclockwise case. It means that it starts 0 here, and plus form of that degree is, for example, it's plus 90 degrees. If I go here, it's minus 90 degrees. And in AutoCAD, we use counterclockwise for. Let's get back to the AutoCAD. As you see here, we talked about these, and mostly, as you know, we use decimal degrees. But for precisions, we can talk about similar to the length. We have different precisions. It depends on the accuracy of our model. But let's say, for example, again, we use 1 digit after decimal place. Here, as I told you, intrinsically the AutoCAD is counterclockwise, but if we want it to be clockwise case, we can check it. Okay. Now let's talk about the insertion scale. We have different form of scales to be used. Millimeter, centimeter, meters, kilometers, or we can use also inches or feet, or it can be unitless. But let's say we want to use with millimeters, which is mostly used in mechanical engineering. In architectural and civil engineering, for example, for buildings, we mostly use centimeters or meters. It depends on the project that you wanted to work. And here we can also talk about the directions. In directions, as I talked with you about this, the start is from east, means that the 0 degree is east. But now, if we want to say that our base angle is east, but it can be the north or west, it depends. If we start from west, as you can see here, if we start with west, now 0 is here, and from here, this part should be 90. It's the difference, but we consider east as the start of our angles. It was all information about the units in a deep and complete form, but let's talk about more information, and this is about drawing limits. As you know, we can limit our works based on the paper that we want to publish our works later. Let's see it here. As example, we can have different drawing sheets, for example, in inches or millimeters. We can have the form of A, B, C, D, E. In the case of, for example, 8.5 multiplied by 11 inches. But for example, if we talk in millimeter, A4 size is about 210 multiplied by 297. As you can see here, we have it here. It depends on the units that you work, but if we consider an A4, which is this, and let me draw a rectangle to show that the start I need to be 0, and I need to be this value in this direction and this value in this direction. It's the size of my paper in the portrait form. Now, I want to limit my work in this area. What is the meaning of that? When I say drawing limits, I come and say that I limit my works in this region. Outside this region, I cannot do any work. Means that commands outside this work are not working. Let's see the example. Most of the time, the start part, as you can see here, as the basis of the AutoCAD, it's 0 and 0. I accept it, and I need to consider the opposite corner of that, which is here. As you can see, I can see that it's the opposite corner of that. Now I selected the limit, but if I work here, you can see that it's not working right now. If I say, okay, I can go outside of this region, it shows that it's not working. How should I work with that? I should come back here after selecting my drawing limits, and I need to put it in on or off form. If I say on, look at this time. If I select line, come here, this time I cannot click here. I have to work inside that. As you see, I can click here, but outside I cannot do anything. I put my left click, but nothing is happening. It shows that I have my limits in drawing area. Thank you so much, and thanks for your time. It was enough for this session, and I hope that these lessons were useful for you. Next session I will try to give you more information. Maybe I will try to talk about the draws basics or from lines, and we will talk about the coordinates and these kind of informations. And thanks for your time. It was an honor for me to have you here. Take care, best wishes, and goodbye.